Remember, I'm going to give it a couple of seconds, so if anybody joins us, they can catch in. I'm just playing with my clay right now. So if you're planning on joining, you just need to grab some clay. I just have like earthenware clay, like ceramic clay. But if you have like Play-Doh or like polymer, like fun clay, you can use that too. And then you also need assorted things from nature. So I've got like sticks and rocks and fossils and plant life and stuff like that. So that's all you need to get started. If you're watching, just go ahead and comment your name, where you're from, and what you're planning on making today. Do we have anyone?
3 people.
Woo! Hello, 3 people. Okay, so just give it one more second while we get started. If your clay isn't opened, you can go ahead and open it or start setting out your supplies. I have a ton of stuff here. You don't need all of this, I guess I should start with. When the pandemic started, I brought home all of my clay stuff from the studio that I go to. So this is way more than you need for right now. So I thought we would just start off with kind of making a slab. So you can kind of just push it down. I found this really cool stick outside. I don't know if you can kind of zoom in. It's got all the little trails from whatever was eating it. And so I thought it would be cool to kind of just roll it out to see what kind of textures I could get like that. So I think that would be kind of cool. But if you don't have like a rolling pin or a stick and you're just squishing it, that's fine. You can just kind of flop it down like this and it will kind of flatten out into, eventually, into kind of a slab that you can use. So if you have watched some of the previous videos I've done, I did the, what was it? The brownie potter badge. And we really went deep into like making pinch pots and a couple other things. So if you want like a lot more information or interested in that, check that out. It's on our YouTube video, and I believe it's just on the Girl Scouts of Western Ohio Facebook page. But today we're going to focus less on kind of technique and more on just making something that is super cool. If you guys would just comment if you are participating, what kind of clay you brought, and we can kind of get started, and I can edit any instructions based on that. So I've got my slab. I've just kind of been playing with it, and I thought it would be fun to kind of make a little dish. So I just brought a dish that I had from my kitchen, and I have a little bit of cling wrap. If you have cling wrap, if you have like an extra plastic bag from something, you could use that. And I just am going to kind of line it in here. But I'm just going to find some fun stuff in my pile of stuff that I've gathered and kind of go from there. My clay needs to be sprayed down if I'm using it a lot. Gotta find my rib if I can find it. You don't necessarily have to do that if you're using your polymer clay, but if you have like a plastic spoon and you want it to be nice and smooth, you can use your plastic spoon and just kind of smooth it down. But it's up to you. So I'm just gonna do that. And then I'm gonna kind of place it right in here. Kind of try to push it down, not so severe that I'm gonna get like a ton of handprints in it. And then you can use, if you have a spoon, or just use your fingers to kind of smooth it out. So obviously, I have a lot of extra happening here. I can either kind of flip it over, but you want, hello cat, one moment, don't mind that. I can either flip it over and try to trim it, or if you have like a plastic knife, I've got a fettling knife right here. And I'm just gonna go around the edge to trim it. And then we can smooth off the edges and make it kind of however we want in a minute. Oop. And I'm just kind of following the outside of the little tray. I can feel it. And then you can kind of smooth off your edges. Make sure you get kind of under them too, so it's not like super sharp. Sometimes I'll just spray like a tiny bit of water on whatever surface I'm using, and then kind of go from there. It makes it a little bit easier. If you've got like a particularly gnarly bit, you can kind of cut it off. Just make it nice and pretty. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go through the shape on the inside, make sure it's not too crazy. Okay, so I've kind of got like a little dish here. I can put my change in it. Cool rocks when I collect it. Honestly, that's probably what's going to happen. And then I'm just going to find some cool stuff that I found and press it in and see how that goes. So I found this. I thought it was really, really pretty. It's called Smartweed. It's like a pretty kind of pinkish little flowery thing that grows in my yard. So since I have the saran wrap already, and to avoid getting my fingerprints all up here, I'm just gonna use it to kind of press gently, really gently, pressing it into the clay. Try not to move it around too much because that might mess up the design. Let's see. So it turned out a little bit. The leaves aren't super great, but you can kind of see the shape in there. So I used a little bit of that. I also found these little flowers. I can't remember what they're called. Do you know what this plant is called? Hydrangea. There it is. From the hydrangeas in the backyard. So I thought I would see if I could make a print of that. So again, I'm just using the clay, obviously the clay, the saran wrap, plastic wrap, to poke it in, and we'll see if it leaves. It's a little bit of a shape. It's not too fantastic. We'll try to use, don't want to stab it too hard. There we go. So I've got a little bit of a shape in there, not too crazy. I had a really cool, I think it's in this bucket. One moment. I've got lots of buckets of things. I had a dried fern I wanted to try. There she is. So I've got a fern right here. And on the bottom side, you can see it's kind of got like the spores on it. So I think that we should be able to get a cool little shape of that. So I'm just gonna kind of push it in here to make a shape. Give it a little extra squish. That turned out kind of cool. Yeah. So with this one, since it is kind of in this shape, I'll leave it in here for a little bit until it starts kind of firming up a little bit. So when you're working with clay, there's different kind of stages. So right now, kind of from the block, and right now it's like very, it moves. It's still very clayey in texture. So this is just called like wet or raw clay. And once it starts getting a little bit harder, I don't have a piece to show you. So it'll be a little bit harder. It's called leather hard. So it's just kind of, you can still make stuff in it, but it won't be like as squishy and movie as it is now. So after that kind of happens, I'll move it out so that it can kind of set and make its own shape. Definitely make sure that you're taking it out before it gets too crazy, because the clay will shrink up a little bit, and it could, you know, be difficult to get out at certain spots. So that's that one. And then after that, we've got this one. So this is one that I made for the brownie badge. So this right here, it's very hard. It's called bone dry. So it's bone dry or greenware. So it is pretty hard, but it's not usable. Like if I put water in it, it would just become clay again. So over here, you can kind of see I threw some extra pieces in here that I kind of, let me see, didn't love or I forgot about. And so they're just in a thing of water and they're starting to turn back into kind of this clay slippy kind of solution. So if you're using this kind of clay, you'll get it until it's bone dry, and then you will get it fired. So it's called a bisque fire. And then after that, you can kind of hear it. It's pretty much terracotta at this point. So you can leave it as is. You could plant some things in it that like it to be kind of dry. It'll suck up the moisture. But if you want it to be kind of cool and glazed or something like that, you would have to put some glaze on it and then get it glaze fired. And then at that point, it's really like your waterproof kind of mug. And you can see that it's like a lot darker color, and the clay particles kind of vitrify together and melt and turn more into like a glassy substance. So, so if you're using kind of ceramic clay, that's kind of the process you need to go to. But if you're using your typical Play-Doh or like your air bake clay or air dry clay or oven baked clay, you don't have to worry about all those steps. You can just kind of do your thing, let it harden and go, or do your thing and then put it in the oven for whatever the instructions say. So other things that you could make, I thought it would be fun. You could make some sort of like jewelry or something like that. So you can make like a necklace. So I've just got my strap kind of piece. And I'm just smoothing it out again. Hi, Mr. Baby. Sorry, my dog is growling in the background. Let's see. My heart wants to use the fern again. I don't know. I found this cool little twig. It's from, looks like a maple tree. So I thought that might be kind of cool. So I was gonna just put it in here, see what happens, and then maybe cut it into a cool shape. Boom, 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 boom. Looks like it's doing some cool stuff in here. Let's see what she does. Oh, well, I lost the little floaty guy. Sorry. Cool. So I made kind of a cool shape. Let's see. What do I want? You see I have a little. You can use your knife. Or I have a whole bunch of little cookie cutters. So I was just gonna take a little cookie cut snap of it. Just remember, whatever you make is going to shrink just a tad bit. I'm not 100% sure how much it's going to shrink with polymer clay, but I'm pretty sure it shrinks just a bit. But this is going to shrink about 25% or so. So my cool little thing, and then you just need to make sure to poke a hole in it. I'm just kind of seeing what I have around that I can poke a hole with it. If you have like a thicker pencil, you could use that. I'm just gonna kind of poke it. Make like a little diamond or something like that. Poke it out. There are little tools that you can use also. And then just make sure to kind of smooth it out on the back. If you had like a bigger nail, you could do that. But then just smooth it out a little bit. And kind of look in there and make sure there's no like weird parts. And again, this is going to shrink. So that means the hole is also going to shrink. You could use like a toothpick. And then I'm just getting a little bit of the water and just going over that just a little bit. There. So you can make like a little necklace or something like that. Some other things you can do, you could make like a coil pot or like a pinch pot. Let's do a pinch pot. So you get like, sorry, my clay is a little weird right now. One moment, please. I'm just gonna kind of wedge it. And this is getting all the air out of it because I've definitely used this before. So I'm not gonna fully wedge it because that would take a bit longer than you probably wanna watch. But, okay. So I have my hunk of clay and I'm just gonna roll it kind of into a ball. Mine always ends up looking like a top. And so what you're gonna do is you've kind of got your ball. You just kind of put your thumb in it, push it. You can kind of see that. Put my thumb in, push it in, and then you're just lightly gonna go around and pinch it. So I'm not pinching super hard. Right now the pressure is like right here. So I'm gonna kind of go around the top with pressure, and then I'm gonna slowly start moving down, kind of in a spiral. So I'm kind of like going around like this with the pressure. Otherwise it'll kind of look like a weird ice cream cone. And so doing that, I'm making the walls right here thinner, and then this is thicker. So as I go down, I have to continue to do that. And then every now and then this might start getting like kind of uneven. You can just kind of pop that down like that. One thing you can do with these, if you want to make something that looks like nature out of pinch pots, you can make like a pumpkin or like an acorn. So if you want to make like an acorn, this could kind of be the bottom of your acorn. It's getting a little uneven. You want to try to keep it evenish around. And then you see how mine is getting all like cracked up? I'll just put a little bit of water on my table and then kind of just smooth it out. Because as your hands are touching it, it's kind of drawing out the moisture. My hands are super dry, so they're like, oh, cool. So you can kind of start making a shape, and then you can kind of smooth it out into whatever you want to make. If you have a spoon, it's really nice to kind of smooth stuff out with. But you can make, this is not the most beautiful pinch pot. If you want it to kind of sit, you can smush it around a little bit until it becomes a better shape. You can make like a little bird's nest and put like a little bird on it. Or you can put some shapes in it. But if you want to make like an acorn or something like that, I'll see if I can get this clay to play really quick. You would just make another pinch pot. This one's not really going to fit, but I just want to show you. Did I throw? I think I have a sample one. So we'd kind of, you know, this piece is too small. He's breaking up a little bit. But you would make another piece to kind of sit over it like an acorn top. Then you could add like its little stem to it. Or you could make a pumpkin hold. I have a sample of that. Okay, so I kind of have a sample of this one. So I would make one like this, and then I would make another, make sure that these are about the same size, and then I would flop them together. So I kind of have this one right here. So you can see that this was one side over here, this was another side over here, and I put them together, and I never finished it. So then I kind of made a zipper. So I pulled this clay that way, this clay that way, this clay that way, so on and so forth. And then I started smoothing it. So I took this, just kind of smoothed it all together. And then I started putting lines in it, kind of like a pumpkin would. And so if I would have finished doing that all the way around, it would have kind of looked eventually like a pumpkin. You would have to put a hole in it because it could crack in the oven. And then you would just make your little stem and kind of put it on here like that. So this is kind of what your finished product could look like if you painted it and stuff like that. So if you want more information about this activity, definitely check out the brownie pottery batch that I did. But another way you could build shapes is by making coils. So let me do that really quick. So clay is a tiny bit harder right now. So you just kind of it's a little slippery now. One moment, please. It's not gonna go. Okay. Okay, so now that he's less slippery, you're just gonna kind of roll some coils. A lot of times you just kind of wanna, you feel like you should go like this, but that's pushing a lot of weight on these two spots, so they'll be really thin and then this will be kind of thick. So you're just gonna kind of spread your fingers as you go and just lightly release at the end. I'm just gonna kind of go like that. So you would make some coils. My clay is really well behaved right now. It takes a minute to get them. But you'll make like a whole bunch of this, like kind of a ton depending on what you're making. Boop, boop. And does anybody have any questions while I'm attempting to make a coil? Nope? Okay. Cool. Okay. So I'm going to make kind of a giant example of this. Boop, boop, boop. So typically I would start with like a base shape. So it's very, very tiny, but that's what we got. And you would kind of score. So if you have a plastic fork right here, you could just kind of scratch it a little bit. Boom, boom, boom. Poor necklace. I'm going to scratch it a little bit, and then this is going to be gigantic. But I just want you guys to kind of be able to see it. And then I would kind of be like, okay, this needs to be this big. So it kind of, you can either cut it or you can just keep going. But I'm going to cut it right there. And then I'm going to score along my coil. And then with this kind of clay, I'm going to need to use like some slip. So either some like my gooey clay that I have over there, or you can use some vinegar and a little bit of clay, and then I'm just going to use that. You're going to put it around where you scored, and then go around and just make sure to make that sure that is kind of roughed up a little bit. And you're just going to make sure that it's really kind of attached. So I need to definitely go through and make sure to attach these guys together. Make sure to do that on the inside and on the outside, so there's like no weak points. Kind of move it around, make sure that the slip, which is pretty much like clay glue, is how I would describe it, kind of sticks together, and then you can use a tiny bit of water to just kind of help move this stuff together if it needs help. So I won't spend a ton of time on that so that you can actually kind of see how this works. But then I would do kind of the same thing again. So I would make my coil, cut it, score it, boop, boop, boop. If you're using polymer clay, just scoring it should suffice. Probably don't really need to score it that much either. And then connect it with your slip, and then you kind of keep, my thing isn't long enough, keep going up and up until you have the shape you want created. So that's kind of what I've done over here. Again, I haven't finished it. This is just bone dry piece that I have, but you can kind of see that there's lots of layers on this side, but then on this side I started to smooth it out. So once you're done, you can smooth this out and you can really barely tell that it was made by Coils. So this is a really easy way to make a shape when you are hand building. So that's when you're not using the wheel that you see like in stuff. So that's a couple different ways that you can make something using clay. I think the cool part about this being nature art is clay is actually something found in nature as well. So clay is just like lots of tiny mud kind of particles together. So you're using nature to make more fun nature things. So I definitely encourage you guys to go find some different parts and pieces from nature, and then make something with it, and then share your pictures and stuff of what you made. So after you get a shape, you can just kind of press in whatever you want. So again, thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. Please share your pictures, and if you want more information, go ahead and check out our brownie pottery badge that is on our YouTube and Facebook. See ya!